Okay.
Welcome to the USBGF videos, and this is Phil Simborg, and I have a challenging problem here that many people I know will get wrong over the board, and I've invited my mentor and guru, Perry Gartner, to analyze this for us, and with that, I'll turn it over to Perry. It's all yours, Perry.
What I'd like to do is respond in the way that I would over the board in slow motion, meaning that I'll be thinking out loud rather than to myself. And on some of the options, my thought process would take 2 seconds, but it'll take me 20 seconds to explain. So with those qualifications, I'm going to move forward. But before I do that, I want everyone to decide on their 5-1 play, and I'm going to let Phil tell me when the time is up, and we're going to look at the moves while I cheat in a sense and go over how I would think about them over the board.
Okay, and by the way, if you're watching this video, you can pause the video and take more time to decide what you're going to do. Let's set the stage, though. This is an 11-point match, and white is leading 7-4, and black holds a 2 cube. So it's really, white has 7, he's 4 away, and black has 4, and he's 7 away. So it's 4 away, 7 away. That's the way I look at these positions. The away score is what matters, and black holds a 2 cube. So we can see that puts it in perspective because some of these plays might change at different scores. I'll be quiet for just a second or two, and again, if you need more time to decide how you're going to play this, pause the video and take as much time as you need. Okay, Perry, it's all yours. By now they should have decided to pause the video.
Okay. Well, this position isn't an opening position. It's been developed. So over the board, I would come to the position with some sense of what my game plan would be. But for the discussion purposes, I'll present the game plans as I would go over them in my mind, somewhere along the line before and while I'm looking at this roll. The first thing I see is that I'm ahead 6 pips in the race. I've got 6. I've rolled 6 pips. So one game plan is a racing game plan. Right now, I can't really race because it's not a pure race. There's contact left in this position. What I have to do to race, I have to extricate my checkers from here and bring them home somewhere in indirect contact with this checker, or if this guy decides to get away, or if he does get away, we'll end up in a race. So that's one aspect of it, and I can see where contact might help my race, because if I hit him, which I could do, he might dance, he might lose some pips. He's got to come in with a roll, although he's on the 1 point, so he's not losing very much if I hit him over there. But he might dance. He dances a quarter of the time. The other, what I call common variation or game that leads into a game plan is contact. In other words, there's going to be contact that's going to decide who's going to win this game. Either I'm going to be hitting him or he's going to be hitting me. This position is rife with contact variations. So that's the background of it. Now I'm going to look at the plays, and my idea is to always is to see if I can pick 2 candidate plays. And I'll just mention this as an aside, Phil, that no matter how great a play looks, in order not to overlook a play, I try to make it a practice to look at the second play, even if it takes me 1 second, even if it's a winning shot. I want to quickly look at the second play, find what the second play is. What I found from my experience is by looking at the second play, often I find a play that is just a big surprise to me. I might be better than the first play that I would normally jump on. So that's what I try to look for and evaluate over the board. What I'm going to tell you now is how I do it. So I'm going to look at coming out. I'm going to start on the inner board. I look at a 5 coming out here as a play. If I do that 5, what's the value of that? Well, I'm duplicating 3s. I'm enhancing my racing chances. I've got a connection here. I could possibly get away. I could possibly come out here. Is that a viable play? I could lift this with a 1. I could come here. If I come here with a 2, with a 1, then I'm giving him 3s, 1s, and 2s. Not a lot. But it doesn't look worth giving up my anchor. If I leave here, he's got 20 numbers off the bat, 1s and 3s, 6, 2, double 4s, all those numbers to point on me. And by giving up my anchor, I become less secure if I want to attack him because I don't have an anchor to come in on. So I'm going to discard that. Now, like I say, it took me 2 minutes to explain that. Normally, I would dismiss it right away, but I would think about those things. I would note the duplication, and I would say, well, that's not enough at all. So the next 5 I'm going to look at is down. Well, down gives up the outfield. It gives them a 1, a double 6, and a great double 4. I don't see very much merit in that being the 5. So now I'm at this checker on the 9, bringing the 9 in with a 5. Where are my possible 1s here? I could slot this point, or I could slot this point, or I could move forward for the 1. This preserves my racing chances. It gives me somewhat of a hitting chance, and I want to look at it over the board and put it in the final position. Just let's take a look at it quickly here. I could possibly hit him here. So what's the downside of this play? Well, looking at his position, I can see a tremendous weakness here. He doesn't own this point, and he doesn't own any points out here. So by playing in, I'm permitting him both dice rolls to make this point or come off this point. So here he's got 15. He's got all 5s. Every 5 would make this point. And that's a huge, huge swing. We're going to show that in a little bit. But that's a huge influence on the play that I'm selecting, the best play of hitting him, the 5 and lifting. Now, why this play? Well, I just mentioned one real strong reason why this play. All these checkers are very, very difficult to position properly without a landing space. His rolls are a lot worse. If he's got this here as a landing space, or if he were here, he could feed his checkers in, and then use that to come into his inner board. I can see here by hitting, he's got 9 dances, 25% of the time the guy dances. And now, instead of giving him 15 fives to make this, 15 out of 36, 1 5 is his very best roll out of 36. So that's 1 5, 2 5, and 5 5. So he's got 5 instead of 15 that make this. Plus those dances help a lot. And what he's helped me here with, in terms of game plan, is it gives me more flexibility, makes it less likely if he doesn't hit this guy. It gives me more rolls. Let's go back to the initial position, or go back to this position. I'm stripped here. Being stripped here isn't very good. This checker now can't play to make this point. This really is a much more important point to make. I can't really attack this guy and hope to close him out very easily. So if I can make this, I can prime him, and that's much better.
And you've also lost that checker as a checker, a builder to make the 7 point, which is also a very valuable point.
Exactly. That's a valuable point. But it does give me a little bit more flexibility than I had, although I'm not getting rid of him. This other way, when he doesn't hit me, I get rid of him. If he comes in here, I've got numbers that, he's still primed when he comes in. I got numbers to make, to hit and pass. I can just make this point. But he's got danger with this blot out here. So basically, that's the reason that I would make this play. But I would also look, and I didn't mention this, at the fact that he owns the cube. The fact that he owns the cube would tend to make me make what play, Phil? With him owning the cube, would you?
Yeah, when he owns the cube, you would rather stay away from a racing game. You would rather play a more volatile game because he has less cube big when you're playing a hitting game in a more volatile game.
Exactly. So that's a big element. But let's see what the cube consequences would be if I were to make this play. But before I do, have I covered the reason why this other play is the best play, Phil?
Yeah, in simple terms, you have taken away half his role, and that's why you got into much more detail about what that means when you take away half his role. You reduced his chances of making his 8 point from 15 to 5, but keep in mind a 1-6 would have also made his bar point, which does almost the same thing as if he just rolled a 5. So you've taken away that roll as well, and you have a huge bonus on those 25 rolls where he dances, because now he's got a second block for you to shoot at with a 3, plus your ability to cover and make points and run and do all kinds of things when he dances. And there are many rolls where he comes in that's like a dance, where if he comes in, for example, with a 5-3, that's a terrible roll for him with a 5-3. He leaves you that blot, and so you take away half his roll.
Right, but let me take you up on what you just said, Phil. The thing that I looked at too was some of his other incomings. You mentioned 5-3, but look at 5-6. 5-6, he's going to come out here, right? Burying a checker is not going to be good for him here. It's going to be vulnerable, and he's not going to be able to cover it. So he wants to get rid of his problem. He's going to have to come out. He's got a lot of bad rolls. Even 5-4, it looks close to me, but he's likely, I think I looked at it, it's right for him to come out too, rather than come in. But as I say, I think that's a really close one. So as you say, his incoming numbers are not good.
Yeah, 2-6, he would have to bury the checker. Yeah, 2-6, he would have to bury a checker.
right. 2-6 would have to bury the checker, right? Which again makes this issue more of an issue for him making this point here. You know, making a point out here. So those are the reasons. So now,
Yeah.
let's
Let me
back
just point out one thing. I would say that probably the majority of people looking at this position would have played 9-3. They would not have seen the hit here. And that's one of the reasons I find this so interesting in your analysis, so educational.
Okay, so now let's take a look at the cube action. What do you think the cube action here is, Phil, for him? He's on roll now.
After you hit?
After I hit.
Oh, he definitely doesn't have a recube. I mean, he could be in big trouble if he doesn't hit you back. I mean, he doesn't have that many good rolls. I don't know who's favored here, but I don't think he's favored.
Well, certainly if he hits me, his game improves quite a bit, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't even lose his market if he hits you. You still have an anchor.
Well,
you still have a roll to hit you back.
Okay, let's start where we should have started, Phil. What is his redoubling point? Where does his doubling window open here?
Oh boy, doubling windows are not one of my strong parts. All right, the first thing I would need to think of is what is my recube take point at this score? And at this score, I know I'm going to be on the high side because I'm winning and letting him get to 4. I think my recube take point's got to be somewhere between 25 and 30%, somewhere up fairly high, which means that he would double back much sooner than he would at a normal situation. You know, maybe. Well, I don't know. I think he would double back if he's just a slight favorite, probably. You know, maybe his doubling window's 50%, but I don't even think he has 50% though. But it's got to be pretty low.
Right. It's actually about 33%, and I'm gonna put this other position in that I have with a cube action here. Okay, so I've got double here, and what I want to show you first is we're going to go to cube information, and we're going to look at his doubling points, and you can see it's 33%. So all he needs is 33% to double, and the reason that it's not a redouble is not because he hasn't reached it, right? Look, he's 40% in the game, and it's because the window doesn't close, right? His cash point is 65, right? His cash point. So the window is he's got the problem you actually solved when you said the market loser problem. The fact is
you've got that. Wait, Perry, you've got non-gammon adjusted unchecked.
Right. Let's check it.
Okay. See, I was saying that I thought his doubling window was close to 50% because I wasn't using gammon adjusted. For the specific position.
Right.
And that's why I think this is, I don't, if you use gammon adjusted over the board, I'm not quite sure how you come to that over the board. How did you get to 32% over the board? I mean, the 51% I can figure.
Well, look, you look at these numbers. You know, this got a lot of gammons in there. I mean, there are some gammons in there. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
There are some gammons in there, and it's all on the one side, right?
Sure.
So I mean, I didn't do it over the board. I didn't calculate it.
Okay.
I just estimated it, and I didn't come up with it. You know, I came up with, I thought it was 30 because of from experience.
I see.
So I didn't do the arithmetic over the board.
Okay, so
but
if you're
you
not
don't
more
need to
through
do
the lesser,
you don't need to do the arithmetic, Phil. If you realize that there are no market losers, let's just look at that. Let's look. He hits you here, and you dance. What's going to happen? Let's take a look at this.
I think I said that earlier. I'm still taking even after he hits.
Look what it says here. Market losers 0. His best number is the 5-1 that we talked about. Even look at 5-5. He still hasn't lost his market after 5-5.
Yeah.
You know, so the key is really, you don't have to think too much about where his doubling window opens. It's where your take point is and the market loses. But it's good to know roughly that.
Yeah, and that's where I thought about the 50% is what I use roughly. I don't do the gamble adjusted, but I did know that if I'm playing a match and I'm leading 4 away, 7 away, and I'm giving my opponent a 2 cube, I know I have to have a very good position because he doesn't have much of it wouldn't take much for him to redouble me, and I've got a higher take point and he's got a lower doubling point. So I'm well aware of that when I give the cube. Yeah.
All right, so that's really my point here is really that although if you look at this number of 40 some odd %, and I've had students tell me in similar positions or ask me, well, the guy's got 40% here, and then the chart shows 32.5% doubling window opens, but that's not enough because there's no market losers here.
Yeah, it's only when you reach the dead cube take point that market losers don't matter anymore.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Okay, so that's it on this position.
Wonderful. And Perry, let me just think for 1 second. One of the things that makes it hard for people to hit here, there's 2 things that make it hard to hit here. Number 1, you have equal boards. You don't seem to have an advantage in a hitting game because the boards are equal. And number 2, you're winning the race. And both of those things keep people from hitting. But that's not enough. I think what you've explained is that when you take away half of your opponent's rolls and you reduce his robustness of his game when he's on the bar, and you add that to the fact that he's got bad come-in numbers and dances, that's going to be enough of a consideration to where you hit. Would you call this a tempo hit, or would you just call this an attacking hit? I just want to standpoint of semantics.
Well, I was going to say to you that there is a fine line. There's a fine line. Normally, I mean, in most examples of a tempo hit, your opponent has some very effective rolls. To the extent that he doesn't in this position, it is a tempo hit. But oftentimes a tempo hit doesn't really, it doesn't take place as part of a game plan. It just, you're in the same game plan, but you're just hitting the guy in order for him not to do better within that game plan. So here really, it's there's game plan involved. It's not just tactics; it's strategic to hit on the 1 point, and that's the distinction that I'm drawing.
Very, very good point. There's one other point that I think is important here, and it's part of the it's part of the thing that would help lean towards finding the hitting play, and that is that your 6 point is stacked, and you're doing somewhat of an unstacking play when you hit. By having 4 checkers here, you're actually getting another checker into play by making this play. If this was less stacked, you might be considering a different move.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not in love with that explanation because you're certainly right about unstacking, but you're leaving only one builder here, and that's an issue because you much prefer to make the 5-point than the 2-point.
Perry,
yeah.
Do me a favor. Put back the original position.
Okay.
The initial position. Take a checker off of white's 6-point and put it on the 8-point. Yeah, because I've done this, I'm not going to pretend to be real clever with you. Now it's wrong to hit.
Let's see. Well, you know why?
Part of the reason
because you don't.
Part of the reason is unstacking. Yeah.
No, I think it's wrong to hit, Phil, because you don't have a cover. You just don't have a cover.
Unstacking. I got you. Okay.
Rather, it's the cover that does it.
I hear you.
I mean,
so I drew a wrong conclusion, possibly. Then.
But
maybe.
Actually, look. I mean, you're certainly right in that you're putting this checker into play. Okay, you're better off putting the checker into play on this point, but you are putting him into play rather than leaving him here. So that is a point.
Okay, move the checker from the 6-point to the 4-point. Now, if you hit, you do have the cover. It is still going to be wrong to hit from the 6-point. Again, I played with it.
And I'm telling you why. Because you're giving up a checker for this point.
I see.
You're giving up a checker for this.
Isn't that the flip side of your of stacking and unstacking? The reason you're giving up a checker is because you're not stacked anymore. Because you need that checker. In the other place, you were stacked and you could do it. I think we're saying the same things in different ways.
Well, look, let's do this. Okay, let's do this. Now here, it's going to be big to hit because you've got spares for this point too.
Right.
It's going to be big. You're going to have a better equity to hit.
Where's the 1? Is it going to be 8-7? I guess it has to be.
Well, that's the problem with this thing.
Yeah, but I think it has to be 8-7 if you hit.
Well, here's the thing. We'll do this then. We'll do this.
Okay. Now you can play 4-3.
Now we can play 4-3. So 5-1.
You're still playing 8-7 for the extra builder.
Well, we're still playing it, but we're
not making a point.
Right. Right. I mean, look. The point is that it becomes less and less right to unstack when you're going to leave one checker left on the stack. That's my point. That's the only point I'm making. Sometimes you break that rule. It's right to break that rule at times. You know, I mean, but it's just a general principle. Particularly when you pass this point. That's such a key point for you. And we're going to see this come up in a later problem that we're going to be doing if we have the time.
Okay.
All right,
Perry,
so
thank you very much for this analysis. That makes that's very, very understandable, and I appreciate your help on these positions. Great insights that, again, many things that you said in your approach are things that I've learned from you, but just don't do as well over the board and don't explain as well. So thanks again for your help.
Thanks for having me, Phil, and I enjoyed it.